Well, folks, here again for the weekly forecast. Of course, during this last week, we had that frontal boundary that moved slowly across the state during the early to midweek period, brought cloudy conditions to the state. We did see some fairly decent precipitation amounts come out of eastern Nebraska on Tuesday. And as you move to western Nebraska, most of those came in on Monday, so they didn't have a real impact on Husker harvest days as much as we had seen cloudy conditions. We really didn't see much more than a little bit of misting action and a few light sprinkles on Tuesday. And then, of course, as the main front and the cold front itself moved across the state on Thursday, we did see some heavy thunderstorm activity develop in portions of north central and northeast Nebraska with a little bit of training effect as the front kind of wound up a little bit and slowed down. We actually seen a tornado report come out of Dodge County, and of course some flooding situation developing in some of the areas that had received heavier precipitation earlier in the week. Farther westward, of course, we need to see some precipitation. Many of these systems have been hitting the eastern part of the state at the expense of the west, and unfortunately, this is the time of the year we would love to see some moisture build up before we go into our strong fall conditions in anticipation of the wheat that will be planted as we go through the month. More importantly, one of the things that has come out with our long lead outlooks is that CPC is looking at the equatorial Pacific and has come to the conclusion based on their models that this La Nina projected event is not going to materialize, and they backed off their watch. So they have assigned a probability level of around 35% for this event, and typically we would expect about a 33% randomly. So just about 2% above normal and about a 65% chance that we will be in neutral conditions. However, our Australian counterparts have already indicated that the La Nina threshold based on the surface pressure differential is actually meeting La Nina conditions. So this would not be the first time that our CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, has underestimated a potential event. And the last time they did this was, again, with the El Nino event a couple of years ago, where they were projecting a very strong event that didn't materialize until a year later. So we'll wait to see. This next 30-day period is the most important period for this area. So you do see below normal sea surface temperatures. We've not seen much of a change. We have again seen this blob of above normal conditions develop in the Gulf of Alaska, and this will impede the ability for this region to cool down significantly, but it would not surprise me in the least bit that this will be a slow process building this fall and may actually continue building sort of like our last El Nino event, which was a multi-year event, built slowly the first year only to strengthen additionally during the second year. So we'll pay attention and we'll keep you updated on this process. Currently what is going on is that the trough that brought the severe weather to the state earlier in the week has now progressed to the upper Great Lakes region. We have a couple quick moving short waves in the mid layer of the atmosphere that are rolling across the state. At most, we expect a few scattered clouds, but there is that outside chance for some precipitation across extreme eastern and southeastern Nebraska, a few passing showers, no organized precipitation. And that will probably primarily be after dark and continue on into tomorrow morning during the first half of the day as that energy starts to pull away from us and impacts more of the eastern and central corn belt. In its wake, we'll start to see ridging building in, and our temperatures will still remain below seasonal norms, but we'll start to see a gradual warm up on Sunday, and more importantly, as we get into Monday, the ridge starts building in, and we'll see our temperatures going back up to seasonal temperatures, mid to upper 70s to low 80s, depending on location, warmer conditions to the south. As we go into Tuesday, the ridge starts to build even farther to the north, so we'll probably be seeing widespread 80s across the southern half of the state, and maybe an isolated 90 will develop across southwest and south central Nebraska. But more importantly, if we're going to see 90-degree weather, I think it's going to be on Wednesday as we start to get a southwest flow in the upper layers of the atmosphere, bringing some moisture in from the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll start to see some thunderstorm development along the front range, and some of that might carry into extreme western Nebraska. But more importantly, as we get into Thursday, the trough starts to make a bigger inroads into the northwest. That will really start to funnel our winds from the southwest, and we could actually see temperatures widespread into the upper 80s before we start to see that front approach as we get into Friday and start to see thunderstorm development occur across the high plains, and that will start to carry in this next weekend. So in terms of the 8 to 14-day forecast, normal conditions with this front coming in, and in terms of precipitation, CPC is actually forecasting below normal precipitation, but the latest models are showing a widespread precipitation event for much of the central plains. And in terms of the 30-day forecast for the month of October, this is a preliminary look. Above normal temperatures for the northern half of the country in the west and the east. In our region, the lighter chances for above normal temperatures with near normal to our south. And in terms of precipitation, there does look to be this wide expansive area covering Kansas, southern half of Nebraska, where we'll see above normal precipitation. And if it's going to occur, most likely it's going to be in the first half of the month, tailing off during the second half of the month.